Welcome to a place where shadows speak and every story leaves a trace. Put on your headphones and let the night begin. Shay, come close now. The forest hush returns, soft as velvet and slow as dusk. Let your breath grow long again. In and out like lantern smoke curling beneath the rafters. You are safe here. The tale is your blanket, and it still glows. Softly, eerily, like the flame that never died. Let us return, days past. Quiet ones, peaceful almost. But peace always has a price. Corin kept the black lantern hidden. In the fog that rose from the hills before dawn. In the hollow eyes of carved gargoyles watching Elderby's forgotten alleys. Each lantern flickered differently. One red, one white as ash. One so dark its flame cast cold instead of heat. And each time he saw one, a voice followed. Soft, not unkind, but insistent. Carry me. Let me burn again. I remember what the others won't. Tucked beneath loose floorboards, swaddled in layers of linen, waxcloth, and silence. But even varied, it whispered, not in words, but in symbols carved into the corners of his dreams. He began seeing other lanterns, not with his eyes, but just beyond them, hanging in strange places above the well at dusk. To carry together is to become the flame. That night, Corin made a decision. He would tell the village, not everything, but enough. Enough to remind them that the light they had once buried was waking, and they had choices to make. Before the other lanterns found their way back, he began with the baker's daughter, May. She'd drawn the most lanterns. I've seen it in the well, and when he showed her the black flame, she didn't scream. Even the constable, who had always claimed not to believe in ghost light, she only said, then the widow Calra, then old Dawn from the mill, and finally, each of them felt the pull. Each remembered strange dreams, each agreed. The burden would not be Corin's alone. They began gathering at dusk, quietly, in the glen. No rituals. No chants. Just a circle of warmth around the black flame. Watching it flicker, the flame spoke, listening for what it might remember next. And as they listened, not in sound, they were glowing, but with memory, but in stories. May dreamed of a child's laughter echoing in a crypt. Calra felt her dead husband's breath on her cheek. Dawn saw every tooth he'd ever lost laid out in a line, each whispering a different warning. And Corin, he saw the roots again, but this time not with flame. And he understood the lanterns were not evil, not cursed. They were histories, carried too long by those too afraid to share the weight, so they shared. And each time the story was spoken, the lantern glowed less fiercely, less heavy, less sharp, like it wanted not to burn, but to rest. Now, the glen is quiet again, but if you go there on the third night of a waning moon, you might still hear something in the roots, like shudders at twilight, a flicker, slow as stories told beneath old oak trees, a hum, a voice that is not quite yours, and if you listen, it may ask you very gently, will you carry me too? Rest now, dear listener. Your ears have heard truths most never do. Let your eyes fall closed. Let your breath soften. You are not alone. You carry no light alone. The lantern waits, but only with kindness. Sleep. Hush now. Sink into the softness of shadows. There's a stillness here, a gentle pause between heartbeats, a lantern's breath between flickers. Let your body rest, and let your mind slip. slipped quietly between the veil of now and what came before. We return to Elderby, where Flame remembers and the Glen still dreams. It began with a dare. A boy named Thomlin, barely 15, his boots too big, and his pride even bigger. He had heard the whispers, the stories passed quietly through the village about the lantern carried by Corin, about the dreams it shared and the voices it called. But Thomlin didn't want to dream. He wanted proof. He wanted power. The Black Lantern had made peace with the village, but others still lay forgotten, buried, dormant, waiting. In the cellar beneath the old tax hall, abandoned since the plague years, was a vault sealed in iron and ivy. The hinges rusted to silence. No one had opened it in decades. Most have forgotten it even existed, but Thomlin knew. His grandfather once whispered stories of the Mirror Lantern, a lantern polished in silver, filled with mercury instead of oil, lit not with fire but with reflection. They said it was used to reveal lies, to show not who you were but what you hid. And long ago, it had been extinguished because its light had become too honest, too dangerous. Thomlin pried open the door. Inside, dust, broken shelves, the scent of iron and old secrets. And on a velvet-draped pedestal untouched by time rested the Mirror Lantern. Its surface was flawless, its handle cold. It reflected not just the room, but something else. A version of the room where the shadows twitched slightly wrong. He lifted it, and the flame lit itself. No match. No strike. Just a quiet whispering glow, like the surface of still water kissed by moonlight. And the moment it lit, the cellar blinked, not changed, not broken, just shifted. Thomlin turned to leave, but the door behind him was gone. In its place, a hallway of mirrors, each showing himself, but none of them quite right. In one, his eyes were pitch black. In another, his smile curled too wide. In one, he had no mouth at all. The lantern pulsed, and the mirrors spoke not in sound, but in motion. Each reflection moved differently than he did, some slower, some faster. One moved before he did, as though remembering his choices before he made them. Thomlin panicked. He ran. Down corridors of glass, past faces that followed him with quiet hunger. And all the while, the lantern stayed lit, its flame no longer silver but white hot and spinning like an eye. Back in Elderby, Corin woke with a start. He felt it. The weight of another lantern lit, one not meant to wake. He rushed to the Glen, but the Black Lantern had dimmed. Its silence meant only one thing. Another light had taken its place. Wren's voice returned, faint as dust on old parchment. The mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't forgive either. Corin gathered the others. They followed the thread of cold air and flickering shadow through the fields to the tax hall, and then beneath, to the open vault, to the Hall of Mirrors. And there they saw the breach, a single crack in the world, not wide, but enough. Enough for a second Elderby to begin bleeding through. A place where the lanterns still ruled, where everyone wore smiles carved too deep, where every home had one mirror turned backward so it could watch without being watched. May peered into the breach. She saw herself, not older, not younger, just hollow. A version of herself whose eyes glittered not with curiosity, but with obedience. And her reflection mouthed one word, trade. The villagers stepped back. The Mirror Lantern pulsed. And in the hall of glass, Thomlin stood surrounded by copies of himself, each one whispering a different truth he'd buried. You lied about the fire. You stole the bread. You watched him drown and said nothing. Each accusation burned brighter than the lantern. Corin stepped forward. He held up the Black Lantern, now faint but awake. Its flame met the white flame of the Mirror Lantern. And in that collision of memory and reflection, something happened. The flames didn't battle. They merged, not to destroy, but to balance. The hall dimmed, the mirrors quieted, The reflections paused and one by one bowed, and Thomlin fell to his knees, sobbing not from fear, but from the unbearable relief of being seen and not destroyed. They sealed the vault that night, not with locks, but with stories. Every villager took turns telling a truth they'd hidden, big or small. It was the price of peace, and the promise the lanterns demanded. Now, Alderby sits quieter than before. Mirrors are draped in cloth before sleep. It's met not with fear, but with calm. And if a child wakes crying, whispering of a reflection that blinked twice, because they understand now, light reveals. And sometimes it forgives. Drift now, gentle listener. Let your thoughts soften like fog on glass. Let every truth lie light on your chest. You are seen, but you're also safe. Close your eyes. Let your reflection sleep first, then follow. Welcome back, gentle dreamer. The glen is still. The lanterns are quiet for now. The mirror is veiled. The flames have cooled, but deep in the earth, something stirs beneath stone and soil. A memory not made of light, but of sound. Let your breath grow steady. Let your ears stretch open and listen to what sleeps beneath the bell. It began, as such things often do, with a dream. Cowra, the widow who once whispered to the Black Lantern, woke with tears on her face. Not fear, not sorrow, just recognition. In her dream, she had heard it, a low, thrumming bell, tolling far below ground, as though struck by roots, not hands. She told Corin, then May, then Dawn, and each of them quietly admitted the same. They too had heard it, the same slow bong. Not in their ears, but in the back of their dreams, they followed the hum to the center of the glen, where the earth felt warm in winter and cold in summer, where the soil never accepted seed, where no tree grew, and where the roots beneath had once been lit by flame. Now they vibrated. With care they dug, not deep only a few feet, but enough to reveal it, a bell, black as iron, heavy as remorse, bound in vines that had no leaves, etched with runes no one could read except the lantern. When its light touched the bell's surface, it shimmered like oil on water, and the glen shivered. They lifted it, only just, but it was enough. The bell rang once, not with a crash, not with a clang, but a tone, low, winding, endless, like a throat remembering how to speak after centuries of silence. And then, the dreams changed. May saw her mother gone for 5 winters, standing at the edge of the river, humming a tune that May had never known, but somehow remembered. Cowra awoke with ash on her hands. Corin heard voices beneath the floorboards of his cottage, whispering in a tongue older than language. It was Wren again who answered, this time not through the Black Lantern, but through the trees. Their leaves rustled in rhythm, and when you listened, really listened, you could almost hear her footsteps between each gust. She said only this, some echoes don't fade. They wait until someone's heart is hollow enough to carry them. That night, Elderby didn't sleep, because Elderby dreamed together, every home, every bed, every soul, connected by the hum of the bell. And in those dreams, they were not alone. They walked together through a field of stars that whispered names they hadn't spoken in years. They saw people long gone, pets that had vanished, songs half remembered from childhoods buried deep, and at the center of it all, the bell, floating, tolling, softly, lovingly, endlessly. But every gift has a shadow. Don did not wake the next morning. He was smiling, but still cold, hands clasped, around a stone shaped like a bell. The next night, another passed. Then a third, each peaceful, each smiling. Unless you already knew what you were listening for. Each holding a dream relic in their hands, a pebble, a leaf, a thread of silver, each one humming faintly, too faint to hear. Corin realized the bell wasn't summoning ghosts. It was offering reunion, an invitation to stay forever inside the dream. The lanterns flickered, Wren wept in the trees. So Corin made a decision. They would bury the bell again, deeper this time. Not to silence it, but to let it rest. No one slept. It took 3 days, and during those days, not truly. Because sleep meant dreaming, and dreaming meant hearing the bell. And once you heard it, you couldn't help but follow it. So they sang while they dug. Lullabies, work songs, old chants once used to keep rhythm during harvest. Anything to anchor themselves to the now. Anything to keep the echo from swallowing them. Finally, the bell was buried, covered in stones. A circle of whispered names, salt, lantern ash, and last of all, released. The names of those the bell had called. The glen is quiet once more, spoken with love, very carefully, each name dimmed. Each name, the soil settled, the humming stopped, the dreams. Now, but if you sleep near it and listen very, you might feel the faintest pressure in your chest, like someone calling your name from a distance you've not yet walked. And the question will follow, would you stay? If the dream was sweeter than the waking? No need to answer now, let your body rest. Let the echo pass through you. You are awake, but just barely, and sometimes that's enough. Sleep now where no bell tolls, unless you ask it to. Welcome back, drift closer now. The air is soft, like velvet pulled over ancient dreams. The lantern's glow flickers gently, its flame no longer wary, but still listening. Let your limbs grow heavy, let your thoughts slow, as we return once more to Elderby, where time sometimes folds in on itself like old linens, and memory does not always stay where you left it. It began one morning when the first fog of spring still clung to the grass like dew, the sun pale as cream, the village just waking, birds hesitant to sing. A stranger arrived. No one saw her come, no footsteps in the mud, no cart, no horse. Just a woman standing at the edge of the square, cloaked in gray, eyes hidden by a broad-brimmed hat, and around her neck a pouch made of crimson velvet, the kind stitched for a royal coin or burial herbs. She said her name was Vala, and when asked what brought her to Elderby, she simply smiled and said, I carry petals. When I drop the last one, I'll know where I belong. No one thought much of it at first. Elderby had seen wanderers before. Some came for peace. Others fled things they dared not name. Vala was quiet, polite. She helped patch thatch roofs, fed chickens, tended a widow's hearth, and each evening, just before twilight, she would take one rose petal from her pouch and let it fall. They never rotted, never blew away. Each petal landed and stayed, even when wind howled, even when rain came, unmoving, undecayed. The villagers began to notice other things, subtle at first. Children forgetting the names of old stories. May misplacing the recipe for her husband's honey bread, the one Shidi made every week for 20 years. Then stranger things. Dawn forgetting where his cottage stood. Kalra forgetting her husband's face. Each time, the village would search for answers. Corin would consult the lantern. Wren would rustle the trees. The stream would whisper no secrets. And always, when someone forgot, a petal was there, nearby, at their feet, still red, still perfect. Corin confronted Vala, asked her what magic she carried. She looked up at him with eyes soft as wool. They're not mine, she said. They're memories no one asked to keep. I just returned them to the soil. But soil, Corin said, was not meant to erase. Vala said nothing. She dropped another petal and walked away. That night, Corin tried to burn one. He built a fire from blessed birch, whispered Wren's name, placed the petal in the center, but it did not burn. It sank into the flame, like ink into water, and then he forgot what he was doing. He blinked. The fire was out, the birch unburned, and the petal was gone. May began collecting them. She placed them in a locked box beneath the black lantern, but the more she collected, the more she forgot why. She'd find herself at the foot of her stairs, holding the box, unsure what it was for. The villagers grew quiet, afraid to speak too fondly of a memory in case it vanished next. Some began writing things down. Others whispered old songs to themselves again and again, like lifelines. Even the children played in silence, eyes wide, uncertain which games they'd already forgotten, and still, each dusk, there were none left. Vala dropped a single petal, until one day, the pouch lay flat against her chest, and she smiled not cruelly, but like someone at the end of a very long walk. And everyone watched. She stood in the center of the square, breath held, hearts tight. She whispered, "Thank you for your space. My burden is laid down." And with that, she stepped backwards and disappeared. No smoke, no sound. Just gone. They searched. They dug. They followed the petals. But they found no trace. Not even a footprint. Just the velvet pouch, now empty again, who gave the final answer hanging from the village well. And around the square, 99 petals, each untouched by time. It was Wren, though faintly through the wind. She was a collector of burdens. If you walk through Elderby in spring, some souls cannot let go until they give their forgetting to someone else. The villagers buried the petals in the glen. One day, someone would dream them, each one wrapped in parchment, bearing a single word or image, whatever piece of memory they believed might be missing. They didn't expect to get them back, but they hoped, perhaps, and carry them home. Now, you may find a single red petal on your pillow. Don't be afraid. It's only a piece of something someone else loved too much to keep. Let it rest, let it pass, and hold tighter to the memories you choose to carry. The lantern still burns, the glen still listens, and you're safe to drift now. Let go. Let the night take the weight you no longer wish to bear. Sleep where nothing is ever truly forgotten, only gently misplaced. You've come back again. Good. Take a deep breath now. In and out. Let the dark wrap gently around your shoulders like a velvet shawl. Let your mind quiet. Let your heart beat slow. The glen is silent, but something new waits to be heard. Not a whisper, not a dream, but a page turning on its own. In Elderby's oldest cottage, long abandoned, nearly hidden beneath ivy and ash, young Emmerich was the first to find the book. He wasn't looking for anything, only wandering. Children often are drawn to places the older villagers avoid without knowing why. He'd stepped through the doorway, where no one had lived in a century. The air smelled of moss and ink, and the hearth sat a box, iron-bound, laced with vines, and sealed with a lock that looked like a weeping eye. When Emmerich touched it, it bled. Just a single drop, bright red, not his blood, but the locks. It dripped down and sizzled where it struck the stone. Then it opened. Inside a book, bound in bark, its spine wrapped in thin, silvery root fibers, and its pages blank. Or so they first appeared. But as Emmerich turned the first page, something began to write itself. In ink the color of shadows, the words formed slowly, curling like smoke across the parchment. The boy stood alone in a room that remembered more than it should. Emmerich's breath caught, because that was him, exactly him, right then. He turned the next page and read words that hadn't happened yet. A candle toppling, a breeze that shouldn't be there, a voice calling him by name, not from the cottage, but from inside his own head. He dropped the book. It closed itself. He ran. The villagers didn't believe him at first, but then May touched the cover and it bled. Again, this time faster, dripping down her fingers before vanishing as quickly as it came. And when she opened the book, it wrote her story too. Not the past, not the now, but what she feared most. Losing her name, forgetting her child's face, waking up to no memories at all. Each page became a mirror, not of truth, but of deepest dread. They tried locking it again, wrapping it in salt, thread, iron, even placing it beside the black lantern. But nothing stopped the pages from writing. Wren rustled her warnings through the trees. It feeds on what you hide. Do not open it unless you're willing to let it grow. Still, temptation clung. A book that knew what you feared. Could it be tricked into showing what might be avoided? Or did reading it create the fate Corin dared to test? He opened to a clean page. It wrote, "The man will break his lantern, and with it, the village's light." He slammed the book shut, refused to believe it. But that night, he dropped the black lantern while hanging it in the square. It cracked, its flame flickered, and for the first time in years, the light died for an entire hour. Fear bloomed. They decided the book must be hidden, deeper even than the bell, where no hands would find it. So they ventured to the glen again, where the earth had once hummed with echoes. They dug through ash, stone, salt, and silence. And there, at the roots of the deepest oak, they buried the book. But not before one last page wrote itself. You can bury fear, but its roots remember. One day, they will grow toward light. Now, when children dream in Elderby, some say they see pages turning in their sleep. And sometimes those pages read back. So if you find a book beneath your pillow, bleeding ink and memory, close it, let it rest. For fear is a seed and words are the water. Sleep now. Let your mind be still. Let the stories stay unwritten. Just for tonight, you've returned again, and the night welcomes you with open arms. Let the hush settle softly in your bones. Feel the slow rise and fall of your breath. Let go of the day and listen. As we follow another path, past the village square, beyond the glen, through a gate no longer watched, to the graveyard, and just beyond it, the well. They say Elderby's graveyard was once a garden. Centuries ago, before the wars, before the fog, before the candles ever needed to burn through the night. There, beneath the shadow of hawthorn trees, herbs bloomed wild, lavender, mugwort, yarrow. Now, only gravestones remain. Some cracked, some sunken, others untouched, though no one recalls the names carved into them. It was Emmerich again, the curious boy with white eyes and silent feet, who found the well. One morning, while picking berries near the graveyard's edge, he saw a shape in the briars, stone, circular, carved with vines and runes. Most telling of all, no moss, as if something inside kept the stone breathing. He cleared the vines, lowered a pebble, heard no splash, only silence. Then he leaned in and saw not his own reflection, but something else. A flicker, a shape, a room he didn't know, stone walls, a dark doorway, and a figure back turned, whispering his name. He ran again, but the well stayed. Soon others came, each curious, each cautious. They too saw not themselves in the water, but a different image, unique to each, and always something terrible. May saw fire her house ablaze and her arms empty. Don saw himself on a snowy road, calling a name that wouldn't answer back. Even old Corin, who feared nothing, would pale when he peered in. He wouldn't say what he saw. He just stepped back and began locking his doors before dusk. The well was named the Mirror Mouth because it did not drink water. It drank fears and reflected what came after. Wren whispered through the reeds. Some reflections are just warnings. Others are promises. Know the difference, or be swallowed by both. For weeks, the villagers avoided the well. They planted elderflowers beside it, tied talismans of ash and bone, even hung mirrors above it, hoping to confuse whatever lay beneath. But sometimes, at twilight, the reflections shimmered up on their own, without a face to look in. One evening, little Elsbeth vanished. Her doll was found near the well, but no footprints, only a single red petal floating on the surface. Panic gripped the village. The black lantern was lit all through the night. Voices called from every ridge. Spells were cast. Names chanted. Still nothing until dawn, when the well gave back a reflection, not of the future, but of now. A child's face, crying, beneath water that was not water. They followed the path the vision showed, to an old storage root cellar near the glen. And there she was, safe but cold. She remembered nothing except a voice that told her, "Don't look down, or you'll see your end before it's time." The villagers sealed the well, poured salt, spoke binding words, placed the ashes of old scrolls inside its throat. Still, some nights, the air near it ripples, and travelers who don't know better sometimes lean too close. If ever you see a well with no reflection, walk away. Your future deserves to unfold quietly, not in flickers, not in fear. And tonight, you are safe. There is no water here, only warm sheets and the hush of distant bells. Let the wind carry your dreams elsewhere. Sleep and leave the mirror empty. You've returned just in time. Time drips slowly now, like candle wax down ancient stone. The forest is quiet, too quiet. Even the crows hold their breath. Tonight we follow the sound of a bell, one no one ever meant to hear. It was May this time. She'd wandered beyond the usual trails, basket in hand, looking for mushrooms that only grew in moonlight. She didn't know how far she'd gone, only that the air had grown colder, still, the way it does when something is watching. Then she heard it. The bell. It didn't clang, it shivered. A long, low tone, like metal pulled through mist. She turned, and through the trees, she saw it. A bell tower, stone, tall, covered in ivy, yet unweathered. And worst of all, she didn't remember it. No one did. Back in Elderby, May told the others, described the place in careful detail, but Corin, the village archivist, insisted we've only ever had one bell tower. It stood since the plague years, built by my great-grandfather's grandfather. There is no second tower. So they searched the records, and he was right. No map, no carving, no folk song. Nothing spoke of another bell, but when May led them there, it was waiting. As if it had always been, this tower bore no door, no stairs. Just walls of heavy stone and a single narrow slit where the bell's rope should have hung. Yet it rang. Without wind, without touch, and always, just before someone disappeared. First was Erwin, the baker's boy. Off to gather firewood, the bell rang once, and he never returned. Then a traveler, then a shepherd. Each time, the bell called out once, and someone was gone. They tried watching the tower, posting sentries, leaving food, casting circles of chalk, but the bell would only ring when no one was looking, and always a heartbeat before absence. They named it the Vanishing Bell. Wren sent word and rustled branches. This is no warning bell. It is a collector, a memory given shape, a toll for those who wander too far from their name. The villagers grew restless. Fear took root again. Children slept beside the black lantern. Elders refused to walk alone. Even the candles flickered more than usual, as if shadows leaned closer than flame. And then the bell rang again. Only this time, no one disappeared. The village waited, watched, counted heads. Everyone's still there, every door still shut. But just before dawn, they noticed something else. The bell tower was closer, no longer deep in the woods, but just beyond the cemetery wall, as if it had moved during the night, as if it wanted to be seen. They tried to mark it, tied ropes around its base, lit fires near its edges. But the next day, the tower stood at the edge of the glen, no ropes, no soot. And worse still, its stones were warmer, as if waking. The villagers knew then the tower wasn't just a warning, it was watching. And the more attention they gave it, the nearer it came. So they stopped looking, stopped speaking of it, turned their backs, and it slowly faded into mist. Now, if a traveler claims to hear a bell deep in the trees, the villagers smile gently, offer warm tea, and urge them not to listen too closely. For the vanishing bell is patient, it does not chase, it waits, and all it needs is someone to believe. Tonight, you are not walking forest paths. You are not chasing echoes. You are safe in your bed. No bell, no stone, only breath, only sleep. Drift now. Let the last sound you hear be your own sigh, and not the toll of something waiting in the dark. You're still with us. Good. The night grows deeper now. The wind slows. Even the leaves seem to sleep. But something watches, not with eyes, not with breath, but with burlap and straw, and a head that always turns with the moon. Tonight, we speak of the scarecrow. In Elderby, the fields have long since withered. No crops, no harvest. Just brittle stems that rattle in the wind like old bones. But the scarecrow remains, not to guard corn, not to chase birds, but to point. It was first built during the famine, over 200 winters ago. The villagers believed something was stealing their wheat at night. Not mice, not birds, but something with fingers. So they crafted a guardian, tall, wiry, its head wrapped in black cloth, its arms made of stitched sleeves, one longer than the other. And most curiously, they filled its chest not with straw, but with names. Every family in the village wrote their surname on parchment, tied each slip with red thread, and placed them gently inside its ribs. They called it the Hollow Watcher. At first, the crops returned. No footsteps, no theft. Just quiet nights and safe mornings. But then the moon waned, and the scarecrow turned. Its stitched head, once facing north, now pointed south. And that night, the blacksmith's wife passed in her sleep, peacefully, without pain, but with open eyes, and a faint scent of ash on her skin. The next moon, it turned again, east, the apothecary, then west, the teacher. Always the head turned before death. Always the arm, one slightly longer, would lift toward the house that would be next. Soon, the villagers understood. The scarecrow wasn't guarding them from something outside. It was keeping track of what was already coming. Wren whispered, barely audible through cattail reeds. You asked it to guard your names. It did not forget. It watches them in order. Out of fear, the villagers tried to dismantle it. But each time they untied the name scrolls, the straw would hiss. Sometimes the scarecrow's head would twitch before turning right back to face them. And once, when they tried to burn it, the fire refused to take. Instead, the scarecrow's head turned sharply toward the priest, who fell ill the next day. By morning, his name was missing from the chest. They stopped trying after that. Instead, they built a low fence around it, painted protective runes, whispered apologies when walking past, and most importantly, no one ever looked directly at it under a full moon. Because during full moons, it smiled. Only once did someone look closely, a new watchman named Elias, who didn't believe the old stories. He stood beside it all night, laughed when it turned its head, even touched its sleeve. He was gone by morning, his boots still at the fence. A small scroll of parchment tucked into the scarecrow's ribs. His name written in his own hand. Now, each new villager is taught, if the head turns toward your home, make peace, light your lantern, and dream gently. They say the scarecrow will stop turning when the last name in its chest is called. Until then, it waits, listening for the shuffle of the moon. But tonight, your name is not whispered. Your window is not marked, the straw does not creak, so close your eyes. There is no pointing hand in the dark, no stitched grin behind the fence, only warmth, only rest, sleep. The wind is gentler now, the candles burn lower, your breath is slow, steady, safe. But the story still whispers. Tonight, let's follow the soft sound of a song, one not played for joy, but for longing, a tune once lost beneath holy ground, and played only by those brave or sorrowful enough to hold their breath. It began with a creak. The chapel floor near the altar shifted just so. A wooden plank loose, even though it had been whole the day before. It was Elsbeth who noticed. Quiet, curious Elsbeth. The same girl who once disappeared near the well. She knelt and tugged. And beneath the plank was a case, thin, wrapped in velvet gone gray with time, smelling of soil and incense. Inside, an old flute, bone white, carved with symbols no one recognized. Cool to the touch, even after lying beneath sun-warmed wood, she showed no one. Not at first. Only later when her brother, long dead, appeared in her dreams, humming a melody she couldn't remember learning, did she pick it up. The flute felt light, hollow, but when she brought it to her lips, something in the air held still. And the moment she blew the first note, the room filled with whispers. Not wind, not echoes, but names, spoken softly, lovingly, regretfully. And then he appeared, standing in the doorway exactly as he was the day he fell from the cliff. Her brother, same crooked grin, same grass-stained tunic, but his eyes, they were full of fog. He stepped closer, smiled, reached for her hand, and as long as she held her breath, he stayed. But the moment her lungs begged for air, she exhaled, and he vanished. The next day, she returned to the chapel, played again. He came back, and again, and again, but never for long, because she could only hold her breath for so long. Word spread quietly. The children, curious, took turns beneath the chapel, each one with their own ache, their own ghost to call. And one by one, they played. And one by one, the dead came, but only for a breath. Soon, something changed. One boy leaf held a note too long, far too long. His face turned blue, his eyes rolled. Still the flute did not stop. His body trembled, and a second figure appeared. Not one he knew. Not when anyone knew. This one crawled. Ren's warning came too late. It is not the flute that calls. It is the silence between notes. Not all who answer are missed. The children stopped playing. They placed the flute back in its velvet shroud, whispered a prayer over it, and sealed the chapel floor with wax and stone. But the dreams continued. Melodies hummed at midnight. Footsteps echoed down empty aisles, and one night, the flute was gone. Now, if you ever hear a song with no breath between notes, don't follow, don't listen, and whatever you do, don't hum along. Tonight, there is no music in your room, only the hush of rest, the breath in your chest. Breathe in, breathe out, and sleep. Let no ghost follow you home. This is the end now, but not the ending you fear. You've come so far, step by step, story by story, through whispers, woods, and watchful things. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts rest. Because now, we return to the beginning. The lantern still burns, but not for much longer. It was always there, swinging gently from the shepherd's post at the edge of the village. Even when there were no sheep, even when there was no shepherd, its flame, soft and gold, never grew or shrank. It never hissed, never smoked. It simply glowed through wind, through storm, through plague, through silence. No one could recall lighting it. No one could recall building the post. It was just there. And from childhood, every Elderby child was taught, never touch the lantern. Never try to snuff it. Never ask why it glows. But you know how curiosity is. 3 winters ago, when the snow piled so high the chapel doors froze shut, a group of boys dared each other, told ghost stories, laughed at old warnings. They brought a ladder, and one climbed. He reached out and cupped the lantern with both hands. He said later it didn't feel like glass or metal or anything made by hands. It felt like skin, cold skin, held tight around a small, pulsing flame. The moment he touched it, the flame dipped. Only for a moment, but it was enough. That night, the dreams returned. Old dreams. Dreams no one had had since the lantern began glowing 200 years before. Dreams of the mountain, of the door beneath it, and the thing that once came through. The boy woke screaming. Said he heard the flame whisper his name. Said it told him thank you. Said it was hungry again. Wren flew to the oldest elder, an ancient woman named Marta, who lived alone in the hut beneath the black pine. Marta listened to the wind, to the boy, to the stillness of the night. And then she nodded. The lantern was a seal, she said. When the old blood boiled beneath the mountain, when the thing with no eyes crawled out, we could not kill it. We could only feed it light. 1 soul's worth every 100 years. She looked toward the post. Her eyes reflected the flame, though it had grown dim. She whispered, "It's been too long. We let it burn too soft. It needs a keeper again." No one volunteered. So Marta walked alone into the woods, her breath fogging before her. She paused beneath the post. She did not touch it. She simply knelt and said, "Let it be me." The lantern flared just once, then returned to its calm golden flicker, and Marta was never seen again. But the dream stopped, the night grew quiet, and the snow began to melt. They say the lantern doesn't burn with oil, nor magic. It burns with memory, with promise, with sacrifice. And so long as someone gives willingly, the thing beneath the mountain stays asleep. That is why no one dares darken the lantern, because darkness does not simply cover things, it unleashes them. Tonight, it still glows, soft, steady, safe, just like you're breathing, just like your heartbeat. So rest now, let the flame cradle your sleep. And remember, so long as one light still flickers in the dark, you are never alone. If the story whispered to you, subscribe for more, sleep well, and beware the quiet.